Hello folks, welcome to our first episode of Medieval Mondays, and today we're going to be talking about Saladin's military structure. Now, Saladin's army was at the peak of its power at about 1186, and I'll leave a link in the description to the sources for this. Saladin's army was at the peak of power by about 1186 and had 16,000 cavalry. Much like the Mongolian army, they were composed of mostly horse warriors. Now, the 16,000 men in his army were a combined group of what were called iqtas. Iqtas were military units that emirs and princes inside Saladin's kingdom had recruited for service to Saladin. Saladin's personal bodyguard had about 1,000 mounted warriors. Now, the mounted warriors among Saladin's personal bodyguard would fight, or could fight, year-round, even through the winter and back into the spring and the summer again. The iqtas were expected only to fight during a seasonal time so they could return home, harvest their crops, and provide for the portion of their kingdom they had been given by Saladin or that they had inherited. Now, pretty simple structure. You have Saladin as the leader. You have the emirs and princes who recruit his army for him, or the iqtas, and at the peak of their power, they're about 16,000, and Saladin has his personal bodyguard of 1,000 men, which are with him year-round. Now, what separated the bodyguards from the iqta, as we pointed out, was the iqta was a seasonal soldier as opposed to the permanent soldier of the bodyguard. Another thing was that even though the iqtas were recruited by the emirs and the princes, they were not in any way expected to take orders from the prince or emir who recruited them over Saladin. Their job was still to do his bidding and his work. Now, the princes and emirs, this is very important for the structure of military, could inherit the title from their father. If there was an emir in Egypt and he died, his son was expected to take his place. However, Saladin could control how much was given to that person. He could give them only 80% of their inheritance or 90% of their inheritance. Now, in some cases, like he did with his nephew, he gave him his full inheritance, that Saladin's brother, and Saladin's brother, when he died, he gave his nephew the entire inheritance that his father had before him. And this was, Saladin had to be very careful, and this shows the brilliant strategist that he was, as to whom he would put in place of power. If someone who was expected to inherit something was weaker than the man who held it before him, he could not give them complete control of that region. Otherwise, he would lose effectiveness in it. Also, he had to be careful to not give inheritance to an extremely powerful opponent, because in the army, that was the biggest place for rebellion. As I said, Saladin's own bodyguard was 1,000 men, but at the height of his power, it was 16,000 men. And he was not directly with them or influencing them at all times like he would be with his personal bodyguard. So it's actually pretty simple to understand about the military structure of Saladin. It's very simple when you lay it out, but it's a very complex machine to keep control of. There's always influence not only from within your own realm, but outside of your realm to rebel against your lord or leader, especially if you disagree with them. And remember, the seasonal army would be breaking apart, so seeds of rebellion could be planted while you guys are together, and when the powerful man who is your leader is not near you, those seeds of rebellion can grow and become more ferocious. So the fact that Saladin was able to keep this complex machine, simple in explanation, but complex in the way it was designed, together for years, when he was fighting some of the most powerful kingdoms on the planet. Remember, when he was fighting Richard the Lionheart, that's one of the greatest warrior kings ever to come out of England, but he was able to maintain control of his army, is a testament not only to his skill, his leadership, but also his insight to his own people. He knew where to place men, and he knew where to give inheritance to, and he also knew who to not give it to keep his army and his nation from falling apart. Well, that wraps up for today, guys. Next time, we're going to talk about Henry II's invasion of Wales, and we're also going to dive into the monetary structure of Saladin's nation in our next episode. See you guys Monday.